also the Energy Institute. And we're going to give you today an introduction to all of the centers and institutes on transportation and energy that are almost all of them here at West Village, not all. But so we're going to give you an overview. We're going to have someone who's going to go through. So these are all the centers and institutes. We're going to just go through. Each one is going to be 5 minutes. So, those of you that are speaking, max 5 minutes. Otherwise, we won't finish. Right? So let me start talking about ITS here. All right, so, so before I get into ITS, so this is an overview of all the institutes and centers. So you can see there's the Institute of Transportation Studies, and within that there's a number of smaller centers and programs that we're going to be that you're going to hear about. And then there's the Policy Institute, and there'll be one presentation on that and some of the programs within that. The Energy Efficiency Center, which also has with it a cooling and lighting center, and International Technology one, and Energy Institute. So you're going to hear about each one of these. Actually, some of those that are speaking, this is going to be useful for them also because it is a lot of centers and institutes, right? And we get confused ourselves. But what's really important is we all work together up here. These are all the same group of faculty and researchers all working together. So it's kind of a family of, think of that. We call it, it's a cluster, but it's really a family of centers. So, so just a few words on the Institute of Transportation Studies. It's the oldest of all the centers here. It was created in 1991. So it's been here a little over 20 years. We have about 60 faculty and researchers associated, affiliated with it. It's located mostly up here, but many of the faculty and a lot of the students have offices elsewhere as well, as some of you. But there's over 100 graduate students affiliated with the Institute. Well, $18 million budget is wrong because that includes all the centers. Don't know the details. And so we do a lot of research. So I think you're going to hear from Professor Handy about the National Center for Sustainable Transportation. But really, in a big sense, ITS is the premier center of university center on sustainable transportation in the country, if not the world. And so we have a lot of research programs here going on: vehicles, fuels, pavement, mobility, land use. And there's two features of the Institute. One is that it's very multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, just like all of these centers. And the other is it's very engaged with the outside world, as is the case with almost all these centers. So that's what's, for those of you new here, I think that's something that you'll start enjoying and appreciating because we do have all these connections with the outside world, with government, industry, environmental groups. So this is, the next slide is just going to, well, that's really good. Really good at technology around here. So the only slides there are just to tell you that we are really very interdisciplinary. So there's a slide that shows how ITS brings in faculty and students from all over the campus. About how to reserve a room. I'm actually just about finished. like all things about high technology. So here's a little anecdote. If you think we're going to have automated highways and automated cars, we have to reboot them all the time, right? Are we going to reboot our cars? All right, that was just a little commentary. All right, so I'm all done, actually. Bill? Okay. I guess any quick questions? ITS? So within that, so ITS also administers, hosts the Transportation Technology and Policy Graduate Group, which many of you are students in. So that's administered by the institute. And so, yes. Civil engineering and TTP have to be here. Right, so this is Bill, and Bill's going to tell you he runs all of the facilities and meetings and so on, and so he's going to tell you how to reserve rooms.
Okay, I'm Bill Coleman. I'm the event coordinator here at the Energy and Transportation Groups. Who remembers what I talked about a couple of weeks ago? What did I talk about? What did I say was the most important thing about the conference rooms when you were done? Keep them clean, right. Okay. So remember that when you leave today? Okay. All right, so what I would like to show you is how to reserve one of these conference rooms. We have 11 conference rooms here at but do I pin it on me? Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so log off here, and then I'll show you how to. What you'll do is I believe you all have access to this. If you don't, then you will shortly. So cows.ucdavis.edu. If your cow is blocking, then you can scroll. And then click on Institute of Transportation Studies. And then click on Log On over here in the right-hand corner. Now, I'm already logged in, so that's why I didn't. You'll get the regular UC Davis login screen where you put in your Kerberos login and your Kerberos password. So there are various views, day, week, month, agenda. The best view to use is this room view because it shows you by day what rooms are being used and what rooms are available at the specific times. You can use this calendar over here for the date that you're interested in. So for example, if you look at today, we happen to be on today, October 10th, we have rooms 1103, which is this half of the room, and room 1111 in the back there. There is a wall. I'm sorry, I forget the gentleman in the blue shirt. I forget your name. But right where he's sitting, if you look up above him, you can see there's a track. And right in back of this gentleman with the glasses on the right, there's a wall that comes out of there and separates these two rooms. So if you have a real big event like we do today, then we move the wall so that you can have access to both areas. Most of the time, probably you'll use just one or the other of these rooms. And then there's lots of other rooms available also, as you can see down here on the left-hand side. To reserve a room, why the plus sign is not here? Boy, we just aren't doing very well. And it's a good one. Sorry about the delay here. Oh, we're not hooked. I bet we're not hooked up to the internet here. Am I? Ah, there we go. Okay. Now I can show you the login. Okay. Kerberos ID. Password. And then I'll go back to the room listing. Okay, you see this plus sign here? This is what you'll use to reserve a room. So if we look at today, this afternoon, let's say you need room 1106, which is in the building next door, at 2 o'clock. Go to the plus sign, add event, put a title of your event. Punctuation does count, and capitalization. You'll be graded on that. Okay, we said room 1106, which is in 1715 Tilia, which is the building next door. This is 1605 Tilia. The building, the WCEC building, is the 1590 Tilia, and then the WCEC, Western Cooling Efficiency Center, is the 215 Sage Street. So there's rooms in all of those buildings. But we are choosing, I usually use a mouse. So we're going to go for room 1106 right there. And as you can see, it gives you some of the amenities in that room. You can seat about 6 people. There's a conference phone like this one that we have here in this room. There's an easel in there. There's a pad, and there's also a TV monitor so that you can hook up your laptop. And you can everyone in your meeting can see what's on your laptop up on the screen. And most of the rooms have a lot of those amenities, but we have them listed for each one of those. Okay, so we're choosing that room. You want to make sure you choose the correct date. A lot of times the date gets overlooked. And then you want to choose the correct time. I'm not going to change the time here. It will automatically put in your name and other contact information. If that's not there, you can just go ahead and add it the first time, and then it should be there all succeeding times. You also need, we're trying to get rid of the event type over here. We hope we're working with the programmers in the College of Engineering on that. So you can just mark the kind of a meeting, the category. Those are required fields. Display location, we have a monitor here in this building. You may have noticed where all of the meetings for the day are, you can see them when you walk in. And if you just mark show on front TV, that's what that means. Then what you will do is you will save it. You will not see it. It will be blocked. You can see it says request because this is actually my screen. I'm one of the administrators. But you will not. The room will not be reserved yet. I will get a system-generated email. I will at that point, I will open cows and then go ahead and approve your request. If I have questions, I'll email you. Like maybe you requested room 1103, and maybe this is our premiere room, and so I might ask you how many people you're having or what the event is if I can't tell by the title, and I may ask you to move to another room. If you need 1103 because you're having a real big meeting, you're having people come from Sacramento, and you really want to show off our West Village conference rooms, you can, but it's not available, you can let me know, and I can see if the other group can move for you. So that would, you'd want to email me separately on that. Any questions? That's it. You already got this, right, earlier this morning. All right, thank you very much. I know. Okay, thank you. All right, so now you're going to find.
Should all be open. Oh. Yes. Okay. Okay. So this is about the China Center. Obviously, the question is why there's a China Center here at ITS. So the first question that I always ask is, do you know how many vehicles were sold in China last year? Not enough. Yeah, it's 21 million. So it's like Netherlands. Everyone gets a new one, right? So that's why China is important. Lots of new vehicles and expanding rapidly. The economic growth is incredible as well. Lots of people say, well, surpassed the United States by 2016 and surpassing the United States this year using purchasing power parity and all sorts of things, largest emitters of CO2. So that's why we are paying attention to China. And we have some of our graduate students here from China as well. So we have done some research in the past. One is the first one we tried to find if electric vehicles can survive in China, if they can charge. So we asked people in China if they have fixed parking spots. That was about 4 or 5 years ago, and said 2/3 of them said yes, but now we found out that only about 1/3 will say yes. And the reason that in China the government is promoting electric vehicles so hard, you can see that that's the weather yesterday. That's the picture we shot, and last month we were about at the same place, so that's the difference. And the second part of research, we do energy projection for China. So that's one of the papers we did. We project China at a much faster pace in terms of vehicle populations than any other projection. And then we also, right now, we're working on the research on China's barriers to China's electric vehicle development. The Chinese government has put a lot of energy in the development of EVs, but it's not growing really fast. It's not as good as in California. So we listed up some of the issues. We talked with the Chinese government about the policies that need to be improved. And we recently set up this UC Davis Qatar China-US SAB Policy Lab, working with China's NDRC. It's a super ministry in charge of almost everything, and California Air Resources Board. We will conduct research on vehicle policies with our Policy Institute, and we'll conduct consumer studies. The first one we want to do is that in Shanghai, now there are many PHEVs on the road, and we are very curious whether the PHEV owners can charge their vehicles or they just run on pure combustion engine, which is not very good. So we have timelines for research, and hopefully we can raise enough funding and expand our research program and have more students to work with us. That's mine. Any questions?
That picked up. Yeah. Okay, so I'm here to talk about the National Center for Sustainable Transportation, which I think is the newest of our ITS West Village centers. It's a very exciting new program that's letting us do all kinds of new things, but it really does build on what ITS has been doing for its plus year existence. So as you'll see, it's a very broad sort of research agenda. Next slide. Okay, it's a part of a U.S. Department of Transportation program called the University Transportation Centers. And this program's been in existence for over 20 years, I think, as well. In this last round of the program, they created 5 national centers, one for each of the strategic goals of the U.S. Department of Transportation. So we went for the Environmental Sustainability National Center and won it. Reflection of all the wonderful work we've done here at Davis for many, many years on this topic. The mission of the center is, well, it's a consortium of leading universities. I'll show you who the partners are in a minute. We're committed to advancing an environmentally sustainable transportation system through research, policy engagement, and educating you all. So as a part of the funding, we're putting a lot of funding into research, but there's also quite a bit of money going into educational activities. We'll be supporting courses and speakers and fellowships and the like. We're also putting a lot of resources into engagement activities, connecting research to policymakers and to practice. Our university partners in California include USC and CSU-LB, Long Beach, who together make up the METRANS Consortium, UC Riverside, Georgia Tech, and University of Vermont. So it's a great consortium, great partners, wonderful work going on at all these places that complements the work that we do here, hoping that there will be a number of projects that engage researchers across these different universities. And I should add some of the educational activities as well. What we're going to be trying to do is draw on what's being taught at the different universities and find ways to provide access for students at the other campuses, so that if there's this great course being taught at Georgia Tech that's of interest to our students, that we can find a way for you to participate in that as well. As I said, research, education, and engagement are primary activities. And I think I've said, let's see, these, maybe I would just add, if you go back one, the engagement piece is something we're really trying to do a lot more of than what we've been able to do in the past. Very much tied to the Policy Institute that you'll hear about in a minute. And I think, as Dan said, it's a great opportunity for you all. So it really opens doors to connecting with the real world and not just being here in academia, taking classes and working on your research. So look for these sorts of opportunities as well. Okay, and then the research focus, it really covers the full spectrum of things that we do. Of course, a lot of work on vehicle and fuel technologies, but also on infrastructure. So this includes the Pavement Research Center that you'll hear about in a minute, operations work, the kind of stuff that Michael Zhang does, and there's a lot of this work going on down at UC Riverside. And then the stuff in the middle is the stuff I do, which has to do with land use, sustainable planning, trying to manage travel demand, get people to ride bikes, for example, rather than drive. A whole bunch of strategies around Senate Bill 375, if that's a term. So we're promoting research in all of these areas. These are all really critical to meeting our sustainability goals. And then cross-cutting all of this, we're also interested in institutional sorts of issues. You know, how do we change policies and practice to make advances in each of these different areas? So that's what I had to say. Feel free to follow up if you have questions. We've been in existence for about a year now, and it's taken a long time to get up and running, but as of this year, we really will be research projects getting started. We've got some white papers that people are writing. I guess the other thing I should do is point out Troy Young back there in the pinkish shirt is our program manager, so he's a good person to go to with day-to-day questions. And you might run into Laura Podolsky, who's not here. She's our policy director, so she's the one who's interacting with folks outside of the university and trying to connect our research to them. Questions? All right, who's next?
My name is Huili. I'm from the Pavement Center. So very briefly talk about what we are doing. Please go to the next slide. Who we are? So the Pavement Research Center is a joint center between Davis and Berkeley. It's originally at Berkeley in 1950. And the new facility at Davis was built in 2007. John Harvey is the director, and David Jones is the assistant director, and the Berkeley director right now we are hiring. If you are interested, you can apply. And we have 15 staff at Davis and 8 at Berkeley, and many graduate students and a couple postdocs. And also we have undergraduates and employees to help with some testing. Every year we have some visiting scholars from different countries. Okay, so this is where we are. Just a little bit further from here, we need a little bit larger space for pavement testing. So if from this ITS go to the Hutchinson, it's about biking 9 minutes. So very close. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, this is what we do. So basically, we're doing all type of pavement research related to every type of road, like highway, pavement, airfield, port, and also the local street, alley, plaza, you can see. It's 3 categories. First one is the structural and material research. It's including the new pavement structure, new material, and also the pavement recycling, try to reduce the use of virgin material. And also we do the research on the functional performance of pavement, like the quiet pavement, reduce the noise, pervious pavement for the stormwater management, and the cool pavement to mitigate the heat highland, and smooth pavement to improve the ride quality, reduce the vibration for both vehicle and bike. And also the smart pavement to make it can used for health monitoring and self-heating. And also we do the pavement infrastructure management, the PMS, and also the life cycle cost and the environmental analysis. Next couple slides are very brief. Some specific research we are doing. The first one is the lab material characterizing, including concrete, asphalt, aggregate, soil, and other material. The structural property includes strength, stiffness, rotting, fatigue, and other stuff. And also functional like texture, friction, to make it safe, and noise, and permeable, and albedo. Albedo is also the solar reflectivity for the cool pavement. So this is the big toy what we are using a lot. It's called HVS, Heavy Vehicle Simulator, for the accelerated pavement testing. So all the pavement material we have to do at least 2-phase testing. First phase is the lab testing, and then we need to build the test track in the lab to use the HVS to simulate the traffic on highway. So this is called accelerated pavement testing. We build a test track and use the big HVS to track the pavement to see how long it can last. So basically in the lab, 1 month the testing can simulate the 10 years traffic on highway. So this is for the instrumentation. We need a different type of instrumentation to measure the different performance, like temperature, strength, stress, and the other performance. So that's the instrumentation product. So we'll do. And this one is showing the pavement recycling. So the pavement is, asphalt pavement is #1 recycled product in the U.S. So that in both terms also the recycled material type and quantity. So we do use a lot of waste material in the pavement to reduce the landfill or something, and also try to reduce the use of ready material. So this is the we call it noise car. Actually, it's not just measure that. On the road, we needed to kind of measure the pavement performance, including both the structure, like rotting, cracking, and some function performance, like texture, for friction, and the noise. Go to the next one. This is called HWD, is the deflection meter to measure the pavement of deflection, and then you use that, you can get the pavement the stiffness. That's the pavement. You can give you the idea of how the pavement performance is bad or need a maintenance or rehab or reconstruction. And also we do the cool pavement research for heat island mitigation. So that 2012, the California passed the bill called AB296. That's Cool Pavement Act. So require the Caltron and the EPA to do some research on cool pavement, try to mitigate the heat island. Next one. And also we do, like I just mentioned, we not just do the pavement research for vehicle, we also do the research for bike. So we try to, like this is a project that we did last year on Highway 1 to try to make the pavement smoother to improve the safety and the ride quality for bikers. Yeah, we're working together with on the project. Kevin helped a lot. Yeah. And also the pavement life cycle, and we try to use the life cycle assessment methodology for pavement to analyze the life cycle energy use and greenhouse gas emission to reduce energy use and make the pavement more sustainable. The next week we will have a conference out here. It's called Pavement LCA Conference. This is the second one. The first one is 2010. So just next week, next Tuesday to Thursday. Interesting, you can just go there. And if you have any question or if you're interested, you can go to the website, UCPRC, or just Google UCPRC.
I'm just going to hold this so you don't hear baby snoring, but that's how this is going to work. So I'm Dahlia Garris. I'm the program manager or center research program director for the Plug-in Hybrid and Electric Vehicle Research Center. And not quite back full-time from maternity leave, obviously. I don't do this on a regular basis. So what we work at generally is kind of 5 major research themes within the plug-in vehicle space. And what ties it all together is really the consumer aspect of the research that we do, which sets us apart from what a lot of other universities do in terms of technology development. So we look at consumers and how the vehicles fit into their lifestyle, how they make their purchase decisions, how they charge and drive their vehicles, shifts within households, that sort of utilization. The spatial and temporal PEV energy use is basically where in space and time do people use plug-in vehicles, whether all electric or plug-in hybrids. We look at human-machine interfaces and people's response to these interfaces in terms of improving their efficiency based on the type of feedback a vehicle may be giving them. And fleet development is a section that we're working in a little bit and potentially expanding on. And finally, battery studies. We work with Dr. Burke, who's also part of the STEPS program, looking at benchmark testing of batteries and second life of batteries, end of life recycling aspects as well. So some of the research projects that we have ongoing right now and coming up in the near future, looking at household studies, and these are ongoing long-term studies of the market. We look at, again, these market changes. We're looking at 14 states in the next year or two. Actually, that says 2013. I think it should be 2014. Sorry. And this annual market study will allow us to see how attitudes and understanding about the vehicles changes over time. Predictive consumer purchase modeling is led by Dr. Gil Tal, and he's looking at what sort of attributes are common to PEV buyers, to plug-in electric vehicle buyers, and how we can use that information to predict where the next market segment may happen or where growth in the market may happen. And that could be potentially very important for the utilities. World EV Cities and Ecosystems is a way that we interface with cities who are being proactive and really unique in their approach to encouraging adoption of plug-in vehicles around the world. So we have partners that we kind of communicate with, and we try to share the information about what each of these cities is doing that's unique, and hopefully we can learn from each other and not keep doing the same experiments all around the world. Transforming consumer energy use is building on this human-machine interfaces that we started testing in vehicles and expanding it to buildings, homes, appliances, not just in vehicles. Charging network design is led by Dr. Michael Nicholas, and this is looking at geographical kind of mapping of where charging happens, where there could be demand based on current driving patterns, and how that demand might change based on battery size, based on the type of chargers, whether it's level 2 or fast charging, for example. And then market interventions and hypothesis testing. This is kind of testing some of our theories from our understanding of how consumers learn about vehicles, and whether, for example, the workplace could be a point of intervention where we could go in and use the workplace as a way to create a community and expand the market through the interactions between coworkers and colleagues, which may be a more trusted source of information about technology than a website or a random person or a neighbor even. Internet communities are another way that we're expanding this. Fleets. One of the other projects that kind of falls under this is the role that dealers play in developing the market. And then, as I mentioned, the consumer energy interfaces work is a project that we got funding actually from the campus to work on. It is right now focused on building not just applications for people to use on their smartphones about how their vehicle or their home might use energy, but we're also building an in-person, tangible, what we call a tangible user interface, a TUI instead of a GUI. And this is sort of the development of one of these devices, for lack of a better word, that we're planning and hoping to install on the main campus here this coming fall. And actually, Justin Woodjack is working on this for his PhD project. And we have a strong team of undergraduate mechanical engineers, computer scientists, postdocs, grad students, and faculty all working together on this project as well. So thank you. If you have any questions, I'm in the building next door.
I'm Paul Gruber. I'm the Executive Director of our STEPS program, and STEPS stands for Sustainable Transportation Energy Pathways. We're one of the larger programs within ITS, about $2 to $3 million of research per year. And these are sort of the set of issues we're dealing with. Actually, click one more time. So the issues at top are the landscape of concerns that we have are regarding evolving fuel technologies, evolving vehicle technologies, changing consumer perceptions, changing economics and policy, landscape and incentives, growing global travel and energy demand, and then things called black swans, which are essentially surprises, but paradigm shifts and disruptions, to the transitions for all alternative fuels and vehicles. So we're looking at not only electricity, hydrogen, also biofuels, and the incumbent fossil fuels, including natural gas, whether you consider that fossil, incumbent, or emerging alternative fuel. And essentially what we do is we are this research consortium here. We're the researchers taking all these issues, having a pretty multidisciplinary team to understand these issues. We perform analysis on these alt fuel and vehicle transitions, and we supply it to, this got a little screwed up, but industry decision makers, policy decision makers, and basically general society, consumers, the general public. STEPS program, we've been doing research consortia for a while. We started with a fairly basic fuel cell modeling program. We expanded that to look at hydrogen, the entire hydrogen energy pathway, what would be required to roll it out. Then we started comparing pathways around 2007. We're about to complete our last 4-year program at the end of this year, and then we're going to be focusing on critical transition dynamics for alternative fuels. We have leading experts that many of whom you may have met already. We prepare this analysis and we present it at least twice a year in major symposia where we gather 130 plus of our best friends in industry and government and state and local, state and federal government, and societal nonprofits. And then, of course, we're training the next generation of leaders, which is that's you guys. We fund about 12 to 15 students a quarter. We have room for perhaps a few more in our new program. One of you just emailed me, I believe. You might be sitting here, and I'll follow up with you right after this. And then I know I've heard from Julie and Hanhiro. But if there are others in the room that are interested in this kind of research, let me know. This is another way we can describe what we're really good at and what we're known for. We have over a dozen, perhaps 24 models that we either build ourselves or we are deeply involved with. And they're major energy economic models here in California and globally. We participate in the IEA's mobility model. We've built our own biorefinery siting model. We've built natural gas infrastructure models, hydrogen station models. We participate pretty closely with the PH&EV Center on their EV charging and PEV market deployment models. We've built a CCS, carbon capture and storage model, and then we participate and build a lot of life cycle related models. And then we're also we're sort of a pioneer in comparing and contrasting these models. Our item workshop, which we just held last week, was devoted to comparing 8 international models. So we're kind of pioneering this effort. It's pretty exciting. And then just a quick preview of what we're planning on doing over the next 4 years. These are our 4 major research areas we'll be undertaking. The first is devoted to understanding, within the next 15 years, what sort of bridges can you span to get to commercialization of all alternative fuels and vehicles. So we're comparing the different alternative fuels and vehicles, looking at policy incentives over the next 15 years to put us on the right path to achieve our environmental goals, say 80% reductions in emissions by 2050. We're also looking at the future from a fairly industry relevant perspective. So how does the oil industry, for example, transition? in a future where there is a carbon policy or in a future where biofuels has to happen, what would be relevant strategies for them considering disruptive emerging technologies and geopolitical landscapes. And we're also looking at a fairly new area. So this might be an area where we could use some new help, actually, the future of global urban sustainable mobility. In a rapidly urbanizing world with increased mobility needs and increased demand for energy and transport energy, what sort of methods can we use, big data, information communication technologies, to improve efficiencies, to improve the way we do sustainable mobility. And then our fourth project, our kind of bread and butter project, in one sense, is the great modeling we're already doing. So that long list of models, we're going to continue doing many of those. We'll build new ones as needed. We'll continue to compare the different attributes of these models and try to synthesize the results and present them to decision makers. And if you have any questions, reach out to me in the next few weeks before I take paternity leave. And if I'm not available, definitely chat with Joan Ogden, Lou Fulton, or Dan Sperling. Okay? Thanks. Yeah.
Hi, man. This? Oh, okay, I forgot that part. To add to the stress. Hello, everybody. Am I being heard? I don't have any slides. I came to improvise. I think you are when I was about 10 years ago, actually 15 years ago, and I appreciated people coming to talk to me spontaneously and just the way I felt about things. So who here is a new student? First year? Who is second student? Second year? Third year? 15th year? So welcome to all. Welcome especially to the newcomers. My name is Gustavo Colliantes. I was a student 15 years ago. I did my PhD in TTP, as many of you will. And I came with lots of dreams and expectations about what I could learn here. I am the assistant director for the newly formed Policy Institute. The full name is Policy Institute for Energy, Environment, and the Economy. And the role that we fulfill is something that we felt that was missing up until now. I'm told that when you look at innovation in healthcare, it takes over a decade from innovation to get from discovery all the way to success in the marketplace of being adopted large scale by medical practitioners and patients and so on. That's a long time. And that's because of many reasons, one of them being that sometimes there's a bit of a translational problem, from science all the way to applications. And that's a gap that we are hoping and trying to fill with the Policy Institute. There's a lot of people knowing lots of things in UC Davis and beyond in multiple areas. For example, transportation, energy, environment, and so on. But sometimes they talk in a little bit of a difficult language, as you may know or may not know, with mathematics, complex models, and so on and so on. So the question is how you translate that complicated language into something that people like policymakers and NGOs and real people on the ground can understand and take it and transform it into actionable information. That's much of what we do. And for that, we have a number of initiatives. One of them is the one that I'm leading and spending much of my time on. It's called the Zero Emission MAP initiative. MAP standing for Market Acceleration Partnerships. And what we do is we noticed there was a bit of a challenge for zero-emission vehicles, electric vehicles, and so on, to gain traction in the marketplace. They are doing okay in California, but not so well in other states. We're trying to understand the reasons for that, but much of that has to do with a lack of information. So we here have this is the mecca, if you don't know that, we're the mecca for research on zero-emission vehicles. Electric vehicles, hydrogen fuel cells, and so on. People like Dan Sperling have been working on this for maybe 25 years now. So we have a lot of information that we can really convey to others who are working on the same topic in other places. So we created this network of states and cities from across the US and beyond, including now Canada. And we're trying to reach out to the policymakers in those regions and give them some kind of actionable information they can use to promote markets for zero-emission vehicles. So we had our kickoff event last year right here in this room. It was a fantastic event with people from all states and cities coming together. We have the second event coming up on the 24th this month in Southern California, and we'll continue having those over time, hopefully over the next few years. I'm not sure if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing here, but this is what we do basically. This is who I am basically. If you notice an accent in me, I'm sure that many of you, judging by faces, may have an accent too, so I wish you good luck with insertion in the new environment. I'm from Argentina. Anybody from Argentina here? That's the way it should be. More than one is too much trouble. Do you have any questions for me? Any questions? Are you sure? Okay, so welcome again. I wish you all the best in your studies. If you want to talk to somebody who's been in your shoes before and went all the way to become a professional in this field, like myself, my office is in the next building. Feel free to stop by and let me know if you have any questions that come up. Yeah? Done?
Thanks, everyone. Is this on? Does this work? All right. Adam Schultz. I'm with the manager of the Energy Institute here at UC Davis. So far you've heard about all the transportation programs. This was a good bridge from the Policy Institute, kind of expanding it beyond transportation. So now you're going to get into the energy centers we have out here at the Energy and Transportation Hub. I'll go through this kind of quickly. The mission of the Energy Institute, the first is we're trying to launch yesterday to create a master's PhD program in energy, kind of similar to TTP. It's probably several years out, optimistically. These things take a long time, but it is in the works. Research is our second big pillar. We work with faculty across campus from the basic sciences, engineering, all the way through policy, and outreach, so connecting our faculty and researchers to industry and government. This is just a bit of a sampling showing the campus's commitment to energy. They hired about 12 faculty, young faculty, at the end of the last decade. They're just getting tenure now. They're through the Energy for the Future initiative, and they join more than 100 faculty across campus engaged in energy research. And we'll just go through a few highlights of recent research we've done. The Renewable Energy Center is comprised of 5 different renewable energy collaboratives. Brings together industry, academics, and government. I'll just run through these. The Biomass Collaborative was the original. We also have a Solar Energy Collaborative, geothermal, small hydro, and wind. So those 5 together, you'll hear occasionally CREC is their abbreviation collectively. We're just wrapping up a multi-year contract with the California Energy Commission where we presented our results recently. Starting to look at what's next in California beyond 33% renewables. Some of the big issues we face, integration of electric vehicles, distributed generation, microgrids, and also West Village, so where we sit here, is a pretty neat community. You'll probably hear more about it from the Energy Efficiency Center in their presentation, but we have the Energy Institute has a few demonstration projects here that are pretty neat that you might get a chance to hear about while you're here. We have a distributed energy storage system in the next building over. It takes, actually, if you look at the solar that's on the front of this building between these 2 buildings here, it goes straight into this battery closet, and we use it with an EV charger we have in the back, where we're doing some pretty neat research on how EVs can connect to the grid and provide a resource for the grid. We also have some innovative PV thermal systems on the roof over here, where we combine a thermal system with solar PV. You get better efficiencies on the panel, and you help assist the hot water heating for the building. And then it's actually not a West Village, but it's related. We have a retrofit project where we have all kinds of innovative technologies going in. Second use EV batteries for distributed in-home storage. We have solar on the roof, smart panels, a lot of interesting, cool technology going on there. And I think that's my last slide. I tried to keep it short. Any questions or comments?
Recording. Okay. I'm Italian, so I'm already naturally loud. All right. I'll try not to be quite as loud. First, apologies that I'm continuing in the tradition of death by PowerPoint, but I have 5 slides, so we will make this as fast as possible. My name is Paul Fortunato. I am the outreach coordinator here at the Western Cooling Efficiency Center. I guess, which one? Excellent. So this is our team here. Picture's a little bit old, so some of the faces have changed, but we've been around since 2007. We are part of the Energy Efficiency Center. There's also another research center that's not here today because they're off campus. They're called the California Lighting Technology Center. If you guys are interested, you should definitely go over there as well and tour their facilities. And if you'd like, come by and I can show you around our place because we're just right over there. We have 12 full-time engineers, 3 graduate students, 9 undergraduates, and 1 behavioral research specialist because we find that with all new technologies, how we interact with them matters just as much in terms of their success as the actual engineering of the technology itself. And 2 support staff, which I am one of a part of. So these are the partners and sponsors that work with us. As you'll notice, basically all the largest of the most prominent utilities are on that list, including SMUD, PG&E, LADWP. We work with all of these utilities and manufacturers, contractors, and policy, including the Energy Commission, on different types of technologies. So one of the questions I get a lot is, so why Western? Why are we called the Western Cooling Efficiency Center? We're called Western because... All right. Sorry about that. Are we good? Excellent. So we're called Western because there are some interesting characteristics about our climate here in California and the western portion of the United States. A lot of this leads to these issues here, right here. It's called load factor for cooling. So basically, the entire energy load for utilities for cooling on average is only 7% or 22% for non-residential. Doesn't sound like very much, right? Well, that's not what the issue is. The issue is this. So this is Western. This is why Western. The peak load, this graph here is actually from Southern California Edison, and it's basically showing time over, I believe, about 5 years here. And this is the actual amount of energy being used, and you'll see these spikes here, all the way through. Those spikes are in direct relationship with temperature. So this graph right up here is actual average temperature, outdoor temperature. And you'll see that 60% of the overall peak load is actually from air conditioning and cooling in the western part of the United States. What this does is it forces these utilities to have what they call peaker plants. These are power plants that never turn on at all until these types of spikes happen. These plants are very dirty, they waste a lot of energy, and they're the reason why it's very expensive to buy energy, especially through PG&E instead of SMUD. Sorry. No. So that's kind of why. So this is one of the challenges that we have, that we're tasked to help fix, is how to overcome the peak demand issue. Right now, we have over 30 ongoing research projects at the center. As a general breakdown of what we work on measurement and verification for efficient technologies. Basically, that means, so a lot of the technologies we look at on the western side of things are evaporative technologies. Using water to cool is actually extremely efficient. We're looking at 10 plus times more efficient than a standard air conditioning unit. Unfortunately, these types of technologies have no standards for them. So there are a lot of manufacturers who are making a lot of claims about the quality and the usefulness of some of these products. And so we are tasked by the utilities to find out how useful these products really are. And so that's the measurement and verification part of the work we do. We also, like I said earlier, we look at behavioral factors. I'll kind of go over one project that has behavioral research that we've done. We also work on policy making here too. Just recently, the Title 24, which is a building codes and standards, we actually just introduced into it a requirement that all new rooftop unit air conditioning units must have fault detection built into them. So that means when something goes wrong with the air conditioning unit, it actually has to send a signal somewhere that somebody can actually notice, instead of just the AC breaks, yet it's still giving you air conditioning, but your energy bill is skyrocketing. So we actually, from our research, we actually changed that policy. And we also don't just do research for other people. We've actually created our own technologies as well, and I'll go through one of those as well. So I won't go ahead and read this. I'm sure this is all recorded and you guys can have that. So as an example project, this was a project we did on the effect of contractor behavior in energy efficiency. So we had what they call a covert observation. We had a behavioral researcher in an apartment. We created a specific fault in the air conditioning unit, and then we went to see if the contractors could fix said fault. 1 out of 16 certified technicians found the fault. So there's an issue, obviously, on the side of training, for sure. What the other issue is as well is finding out, so when something's actually broken, what does the contractor, who is your first line of, in a sense, defense of what you're going to purchase, what is he trying to sell to you? Most of the time, they just sell whatever's on the truck. Whatever's on the truck is just whatever's on the truck. They're not given incentives to really have not only good, long quality maintenance and quality just repairs, and increasing your value through energy efficiency. They make their money from doing as many service calls as possible. So this is where now this behavioral research has helped to then start talking to the policymakers. I'm almost done here. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'm gonna just hold it like this. Maybe this will help. And so now they are now armed with this information to find ways to incentivize technicians to not only take the time to properly do the work they need to do, but also to give them even potentially monetary incentives for energy efficiency in residential homes. So that's one example. Another one is the aerosolized adhesive envelope sealing. So this is an original technology designed at the Western Cooling Efficiency Center. Basically, all buildings leak. So, and a couple of studies done by Max Sherman show that it's about 30% of all energy is basically wasted from a residential home due to leakage. The only way to normally seal leaks in a house is with like a caulk gun and a bunch of manual labor hours, and it rarely ever actually works. So we invented a process that automates sealing of building envelopes. And you can see here what the actual seals end up looking like. So this is actually a picture from the Honda house over here. They tried to manually seal it. This is all the manual, expanding foam. And then this, when we came in and we did the automated sealing, and you can see how it actually sealed up here as well, and over here. We've actually refined the process now to be able to seal a building of about 80% of the available leaks in under 2 hours. This is really great for new builds. This allows builders to reach surpass the requirements for how tight homes need to be. And we can actually do it in under 2 hours. And we've actually already sealed 15 different homes already and are working to test this exact same technology on larger commercial buildings as well. So that's just one of the examples of some of the original technologies we work on as well. So, you know, if you want some more information, obviously you can stop on by anytime, or you can visit our website and pick up anything from there.
Okay. All right. Hey, I'm Ben Finklor. I'm the Executive Director for the Energy Efficiency Center. And so, let's see. So you've seen this slide already? Something like that? And then this is what the Energy Efficiency Center is about. You just heard from the Western Cooling Efficiency Center, Paul, talking about the middle box. We've also got a Lighting Technology Center. We also have a Center for Water Energy Efficiency. So I'll talk a little bit about those two things. We also do market research that sometimes cuts across lighting, cooling, water, and so forth. So the Energy Efficiency Center is the first university-based center in the country to focus on energy efficiency. This is a big deal. Now Stanford has this as a similar style or a similar focus institution. UC Santa Barbara has one. We're the first, the best. And we partner very closely with industry. So if you look on this left side, this is all of the utilities in the state of California. You've got all the IOUs, so you've got Edison's, PG&E, SoCal Gas, San Diego Gas and Electric, and then you've also got the biggest munis. LADWP is the largest municipal utility in the country, and then SMUD's about half that size, but they're probably the most progressive, actually, utility on that board. So they're all industry partners. They're often, most of them are affiliated with our cooling center, our lighting center. A lot of them are doing projects with our water center. So basically, if you're interested in kind of any kind of project that has to do with energy data for stationary, primarily for stationary applications on electric and natural gas, we potentially have a project for you or research opportunities for you. So through these industry partners. Then we also have some other large industrial players. Walmart's got a $2 billion annual energy spend. That includes on the transportation side and their trucking, as well as their fleet of vehicles and distribution warehouses. Wells Fargo is actually the largest commercial building investor in the country. They also have a large footprint of retail operations themselves as well. So if we can come up with a lighting or HVAC system or some sort of water saving initiative, or even something that applies to their stores or applies, in the case of Wells Fargo, to the broader commercial building market, they're going to be interested in seeing that scale. So there's an interest in coming up with technologies and partnering with them on deploying those technologies. Microsoft, again, they have the largest, I think this is the largest parking lot in North America, parking garage. So we've done some really interesting lighting retrofits of that parking garage. But fundamentally, they have a huge city like UC Davis. But then the real opportunity for them is how do they use Microsoft as a platform, big data, software, and solutions to drive energy efficiency, whether it's in transportation or in lighting or HVAC or infrastructure planning and such. So Microsoft's real interested there. Chevron used to be really interesting when they had an ESCO. They just sold off their ESCO business. They are obviously a big oil and gas company. They have internally a $6 billion annual energy spend. Actually depends on the price of oil, basically, because they use the oil to power a lot of their refineries, right? So it goes up to $8 billion depending on the price. And then Honda, we did the Honda Smart Home with them. So our mission is to accelerate the development and commercialization of energy efficiency technologies, and then we also train future leaders in energy efficiency. Important to note here that a lot of the technologies do come from UC Davis. For instance, the aerosolized ceiling technology. We have a whole technology for making those skylights at Walmart actually translate into electric lighting efficiency. Okay, so it's a UC Davis technology that we're using. It's called the dual loop daylight harvesting technology was developed at UC Davis, but most of the technologies that we work with actually don't come from UC Davis because they come from our industry partners. So the ones that you saw here are all utilities and end users primarily. But there are other partners that, for instance, are partners with the Cooling Center, Lighting Center, Water Center that are trying to deploy their technologies. And those are ones that they typically have IP on or they've acquired in some form or fashion. So we don't care where the technology comes from. In fact, there may be some market research that we can do to help that technology in the field. What we care about is, does it show promise for saving energy? And so it's very much a commercialization interest. Commercialization can touch on policy, and there's been some researchers that we've worked with over the years that have helped on the policy side as well. The future leaders, that's you guys, if you're interested in working on energy efficiency, which is obviously the best. So we work in buildings primarily, and excited to see, for instance, Solar Decathlon. I know Ben's leading that team, so I'm sure he's probably ready to pitch for volunteers here. I don't know if he's on the list, but I can cede some of my time if I have any to Ben, who's running. That's certainly an opportunity on the building side. But we also do kind of, as transportation plugs into buildings, then there's interesting areas in user interface, and I'm sure that was covered already today about C-Energy and that type of thing with Justin Woodjack and others. Great. We also do work in ag and food production, not necessarily directly, but if that's of interest to you, there's opportunities to get into that as well, energy consumption in that space, and then this water energy efficiency connection as well. Okay, so this is the lighting center. This is actually their wall. 85% of the lighting industry is affiliated with them. So they're just doing lots of great stuff in lighting. They come out of the design department. But if you are interested, let me know or let someone else, the Energy Efficiency Center, know, and we'll get you connected. You just learned about the Cooling Center. We have a Water Energy Efficiency Center. For next year, they should probably be making their own pitch, but I'm happy to do it for them. This is this water energy nexus. It's really interesting because there's water required to make energy. There's energy required to make water. In California, water conservation is more of the issue, right? We're living in this drought. But there is water in energy production as well. Once through cooling is not as common an issue here in California as elsewhere. But that's actually one of the things the Cooling Center is working on, is not just on the demand side, but how do you do dry cooling of power plants? And so these are kind of issues that we're looking at. But with the Water Energy Center, it's not so much about technology as it is about policy and data. And so many of you, I imagine, are going to be more interested in this type of research. It's really trying to quantify the embedded energy in the water. And the reason why you do that is as we move to a cap and trade and we start to implement AB 32, there's an opportunity for a much more mature industry, the energy industry, who's been running these energy efficiency programs for years now, for them to invest in energy savings through water conservation programs. The water utilities in the state of California are very disaggregated. They're small. They don't know how to save water and run these programs. But if there's energy to be saved, then it's easier to combine that with the water saving benefits, and you can end up saving more water. So this is going to be more and more important. The challenge in the water utility industry is that most of them are municipal utilities that don't have a decoupled rate structure. That means if water utilities truly save water and they incentivize their customers to save water, and you've seen this, there's this mandate to do that, their revenue falls and they're not able to pay pay off the loans that they have on their fixed assets. So that's a whole policy. There has whole policy implications, and rate structures in California are going to change and be decoupled. And that's some of the things that this center works on. So it's really collecting water data, combining that with census data, combining that with customer data, combining that with energy data to really determine what the energy content in his water is, both from a geographic standpoint and a temporal standpoint. I'm not going to go on too far on this, but it's interesting. If you're interested in it, let me know. We've got a whole center right next to the Cooling Center. Okay, last one I'll mention is a project that's more kind of market research oriented. but it's also some data analytics. And we're partnered with the California Conservation Corps to transform the market for building audits in the state. And in particular, we're going after K through 12 schools. So there's something like 10,000 schools, school districts in the state, about on average something like 10 schools per school district. So there's 100,000 schools in the state of California. And currently they're pretty inefficient. And so there's an opportunity to invest in energy efficiency retrofits that will help the schools save money so they can invest more in their core mission of educating their students, but at the same time we get our climate change mitigation goals. So anyway, there was a bill passed called Prop 39, or a proposition passed called Prop 39, which is investing some money in the state to do this. And what we're doing is we're partnering with the California Conservation Corps, which it's kind of like AmeriCorps, but for California. And these 18 to 25-year-olds typically would go out and do trail building or emergency response. We've trained them how to audit buildings, collect the data, send the data to us. We have an automated data analytics engine that produces a report suggesting recommendations cost-effective recommendations that they can do to then retrofit their buildings. And then they'll go out and deploy that money and save teacher jobs and create better environments for students to learn. And what really we can do is we can create a model for doing this throughout the state, not just in K through 12 markets, but the MUSH markets, the municipal, so the cities across the state, and then hospitals as well. Schools and universities is the MS and the MUSH, but the hospitals and the municipalities as well, and then also more broadly, small, medium-sized commercial businesses. Anyways, that's it. If you have any questions, our website is eec.ucdavis.edu. Thank you to Anne Marie for organizing this. Oh, Ben, can Ben do a quick pitch? He's got 1 minute. 1 minute, Ben. The way that you said that is like Ben got us into this. Like that's like we're in trouble. But just so you know, Ben was 2012 Young Architect of the Year in San Diego. We're lucky to have him as a PhD student here, and he's leading this project. So you can learn a lot. If you're interested at all in the built environment, Ben is a great mentor and leader on this project. Thanks.
I did not shut it off.
Sorry?
Did any of it record?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah, it did? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how
I don't either. It just happens. Okay, well, we'll fix it for next week.
Yeah, because me and Ning ran through it, and we were trying to record.
Is it recording now?
Yeah.